On to Mitesh.
Thank you very much for that introduction. As Suzanne said, yeah, I was at JK. I completed my PhD in 2014 under the guidance of Professor Tim Napier-Munn and Lou Keeney. It's good to be standing here presenting about something different other than explaining why I did a T test or an F test or how many samples I chose for my experiments. But yeah, hopefully the aim of this presentation, I suppose, is to, I guess, hopefully add value, because I was in your position at some stage, and I know the transition from I suppose, studying and moving on into the next part of your career can be a bit difficult. So hopefully this could add, even if it's 1%, I've done my job. So hopefully that's what I'm aiming out of this. So I work at a company called Robert Walters. So we been around for about, I think, 30 odd years. We operate globally, and in Australia we have offices in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth, as well as offices in New Zealand. And yeah, we specialize not just in engineering. I'm just part of the engineering team, but we do specialize in other areas in the sales, IT, finance space as well, business support. So that's just a bit about Robert Walters. Yeah, I touched on briefly just about me. I did my Bachelor of Chemical Engineering at UCT in Cape Town before coming over to do my PhD here at UQ. I did have a bit of work experience in the mining space for about 1 year, and I've been in recruitment for about 2.5 years. I suppose this gives you an indication that you're an engineer, you could probably end up anywhere. I know a lot of engineers might end up laughing. Engineers, a lot of the time, laugh at people who end up in other careers, but hey, you can actually end up in a different path. I mean, I spoke to someone a couple of days ago who's a project manager of a construction company, and she asked me to guess what her background was. I took a couple of guesses. I said, "Are you a civil engineer?" She said no, she was juggling in a circus. So she was a circus juggler, and now she's a project manager of a construction company. So just an indication that you don't have to be in engineering per se, and JK teaches you some of the skills, as Tim said earlier, that JK can teach you a lot of skills and hone you for the world out there. Just a bit about me. I guess I'm going to start with a quote. Now this is obviously all around, preparation, resumes, interview preparation, which some of you have gone through, maybe sitting on the other side of the fence, some of you may be interviewing, some of you may be interviewers, but the biggest thing for I guess any process, really, to be honest, is preparation. Preparation, if you have preparation, you'll be extremely confident in what you're doing. I know a lot of the students here as well, when they're presenting for their thesis reviews, all about the preparation. Having preparation is a strong correlation between preparation and confidence. Speaking of preparation, now this is just around your preparation for, I suppose, your job application, whether it be resumes, presentation, your salary expectations, digital profiling. Now, I'm going to touch on a few of these things in a bit more detail in the slides that are following after. But I suppose, just for example, like presentation, when you're going into an interview, they say it takes between 2 and 5 seconds to make a first impression of someone. Between 2 and 5 seconds, actually probably around, yeah, that's exactly what it takes. And for someone to convert that impression, initial impression, 80% of the time it's not, you can't change that. So if you had a good impression in that first 2 seconds, then great, you're 80% on your way there. However, if you had a bad impression, it's that much more hard work for the rest of the time for you to actually turn that impression. So this may be around, I suppose, your dress or the way, how warm you are with your interviewer. So always make a good impression. Digital profiling. Now that's something I'm going to touch on, and I've got 1 or 2 examples. By digital profiling, I mean have your LinkedIn updated. These days, social media is obviously, technology has increased, and social media is obviously going crazy. So a lot of employers are actually using LinkedIn, Facebook, all these social media platforms. Was it a couple of months ago, I had one candidate actually fall out of a process because he went through everything, the interview was great, and the employer said, I just had a peek at his Facebook profile, and I think at that stage maybe he had a fight with his partner, and there was some argument which he posted on his wall around having an argument, and the employer actually called me back and said, look, I think we're going to retract the offer. And I said, what was the reason? I said, well, and they said, well, have you seen the social media? So my point to all of this is just bear in mind, when you're applying for jobs, people are watching everything, because it's your character, that's what they're all watching. Your photo, whether small things like that, your LinkedIn photo. I suppose it's great to have a photo of yourself on the beach in your swim gear, but I mean, yeah, make sure your LinkedIn profile photo is actually a bit professional as well. Go into the meeting understanding what salary you're expecting. Know your worth. Like, I know a lot of people say, I'm willing to take the market value, but to some extent, that's not knowing your worth. If you want to say that's fine, you can it's just how you sell yourself. I'm happy to take $60,000 plus super. However, if it means taking a slight pay cut, I'm willing to take a pay cut to develop myself. There's a big difference rather than just saying, whatever the market's paying. It's just to some extent not knowing your value. So everybody in this room or anyone has a lot of value and a lot to offer. So just know your value when you go into such meetings. So yeah, just around the first impression, introduce yourself, 30 seconds, just your name, sort of your background, nice to meet you, just 30 seconds of obviously making a good impression. Create a connection, as I mentioned earlier, and ask for feedback. At the end of the interview, always don't be afraid to ask for feedback. The interview is done and say, is there anything I could have done differently? Because that's only, I mean, whether you get that job or not, but it's only going to help you for the next one. And I think the interviewer will actually appreciate that as well. This candidate wants to improve him or herself. That might be an add-in as a tick in their box anyway. So just don't be afraid to ask for feedback. Know your resume. So now by that I mean, when you send your resume out, know exactly what is in your resume. Numerous times I've spoken to candidates and I asked them detail about the resume, and they aren't aware, the dates are off. They said they were working at BHP in 2014 when in actual fact it was 2015. So actually know your resume, know what you have there, because, well, I'm assuming you're the one who wrote it. Well, I hope you're the one who actually wrote it. So actually know what's in your resume. That's a big thing. When you're actually writing your resume, ask yourself after each statement, so what? So by that I mean, I designed a flotation plant. So what? Well, I designed a flotation plant that resulted in BHP saving X million dollars or improve the efficiency by this much. So always ask yourself, so what, after each statement. It's all good designing something, but ask yourself, so what? Quantifiable achievements. I guess it's better to say I managed a mining project, a package of mining project over a 10-month period. Or I managed a $50 million mining project in that 10. It's that subtle difference, but you've actually quantified what value you've added and the value of the project. So always quantify your achievements. It's always actually, in fact, we were always taught, it's always better to actually highlight more of your achievements. Responsibilities are fine. Yes, I did 10 flotation tests. Yes, I did 20 flotation tests. But every engineer in that position has done those tests. What differentiates you from the other engineer is what you actually achieved from that. So it's your responsibility as the engineer to do those tests. But the difference between you and I is what we actually achieved out of that. So I did these tests which resulted in this. So again, coming to the point, so what? Don't write an essay in your resume. It's just bullet points. Nobody's actually going to read an essay on your resume. It's just concise, to the point, with the obviously quantified, but nobody wants to read essays in your resume. It's just concise and precise anyway. And yeah, spelling and grammar. I'm sure there's a lot of clients out there who pick you up probably in the first line. I've heard of many employers, yep, he or she has spelled the word chemical wrong. He's forgot the A, goodbye. Even though the candidate has an extremely good resume, the fact that the candidate forgot an A, it's goodbye. So just be very careful, because you have time to prepare your resume. Make sure you go over it anyways. I suppose a thesis, make sure you just keep going over it and refine it till it's the best version. The interview questions. Some of the key questions that I guess clients ask would be around, talk about yourself. So talk about yourself a lot of time is in the context also of the company. So know your audience, right? Your biggest achievement to date. So, and that's also a good thing from a personal perspective. I mean, I think I'll ask a lot of people, if you were to retire tomorrow, what is the one thing you'd be extremely proud of? And a lot of people don't really know that, but for your personal perspective, if you sit back and actually think what you've actually achieved, that's a really good thing for yourself. But yeah, know your biggest achievement to date. Your ideal team environment is obviously a big thing. Culture around working, around your working. Nobody wants to work with someone who's not a nice person. So obviously, yeah, demonstrate and indicate what your ideal team environment is. What motivates you? I mean, I know when I got this job, I mean, one of the biggest, I suppose, inspirations or motivations for me was, well, what motivates me is I want to have an impact on someone's life. I mean, I always tell my colleagues, I mean, we may not be medical doctors who have an impact by changing someone's life from a health perspective, but to some extent we can actually change someone's life from a career perspective. And for me, that's one of the biggest things that motivates me and why that drives me constantly, is I can actually make a difference to someone. So know what actually inspires and motivates you. Why should I hire you? Always think about adding value. It's what value that you can add to the company. I'm a great engineer. Yes, but what about you makes you a great engineer? And how would your friends describe you? This is always a good one. Ideally, they're just trying to find out sort of some of your attributes from a culture perspective. Are you easygoing? You enjoy sports. So also think carefully about your audience when you're answering that. Also in the interview, don't be afraid to talk about your likes around sports, fitness, volunteering work that you've done, technology. You never know what actually clicks with your interviewer. Again, I can relate to an example where the employer and the employee actually enjoy soccer together. So they invite each other to play soccer in the same team. Just small things like that make a difference. Yeah, you end up working together because they share that good banter, I suppose, on the soccer field. So don't be afraid to actually demonstrate your volunteer work, your project experience, a time you were very innovative. In the interview, make sure you actually demonstrate all this and indicate all this. I think my employer, I think Tim referenced my employer and said he has a love for cricket, and the head of Robert Walters actually really loves cricket. So when he interviewed me, it was a 30-minute interview about what's happening in the world of cricket and not one technical question. And towards the end of the interview, he's like, just don't tell your manager this is how the interview went, but you hired. So it was, you just never know what you click on. So just be aware of that. Here's another quote. So whenever you're asked if you can do a job, tell them you certainly can, and get busy and find out how to do it. And I find there's so many, even if our colleagues, hey, do you know how to, I suppose, recall a document, a Word document? I don't know. Well, my response is, well, I actually don't know, but give me 5 seconds, I'll actually go and find out how. So actually try and think about solving problems all the time. Or do you know how to, even if it's small things, do you know how to print double-sided? I don't know. Or, hang on, you know what, I'll actually find out. So just try and think that way. So always, find out, get busy and find out how to do it. And same thing with employers, I suppose, is when you go to them with a problem, actually have a solution in mind. Or the flotation cell, I don't know, it's not working, the impeller's not working, it's not running. Actually go with him, the impeller's not working, but I think if we try this, or this is the solution. There's a big difference. The impeller's not working, or it's not working, I think with this, and come up with a solution. So always go problem solving as well, just think about problem solving. Again, what I alluded to earlier, what do employees actually care about? Culture. It's who do you know in the business? Read their careers page. The employers will definitely ask you about their company, because that's just an indication and demonstration that you've spent time understanding the employer, the interviewer, and their company. Research the employees, what they do. Oh yes, I know John. Yep, I understand John has come from a cost management background. Yes, I've done a bit of cost. So always think about where you can relate to people in the business, because, well, if John is already been hired there, you can relate to John. It's just further adding value to yourself, just around the selling yourself point. Prepare for questions related to dealing with people with conflicts. Now this is a big one. It's around, and this is something, and everybody has a different answer, but it's a very common question around how do you deal with conflicts. So, which happens in almost every workplace, but be prepared for a really good answer about how you deal with conflicts. Or the famous question is, what are your weaknesses, for example? The common answer is, I work too hard. Don't say that. We know you work hard. How about, because everybody works hard, how about you can just change that answer slightly and say, well, I know I need to develop in areas of commercial acumen, or I'm a very good problem solver, technical guru. I would like to develop in the area of soft skills. So it's just, be honest, be transparent, but saying you work too hard is, well, I'm sure you do work too hard, but actually just be a bit more transparent about it. What do employers care about? So there's two types, right? Engineering professionals care about your logical thinking. So demonstrate, are you able to think logically in a manner which flows? Be very creative. Engineers are given the freedom to be creative, so definitely be very creative. Problem solving, that's, I suppose, our bread and butter is to just be problem solvers. Understand the risk profiles of companies. Understand that if you do this, the risk in this area is bigger. So that's what, understand those issues, project risks, for instance. Be pragmatic, so be practical about it and be very realistic about how you're solving problems. And analytical, again, just making sure you can identify trends, build models, maybe regression models or whatever it may be, but be very analytical. Now, what do non-engineering professionals care about? Marketing, how to sell yourself. I think a lot of engineers, they don't really know how to sell yourself. It's not an easy task to sell yourself. And hopefully, to some extent, a few of these slides would have assisted you. Communication, engineers are excellent at getting the answer, and the answer is 24, but actually communicating that to non-professionals, really, in layman's terms. It's not the easiest task for a lot of engineers. Understand the business as a whole. So what impact would you have on the business as a whole, whether it be from the front end to the back end of a project? Just understand the whole business. Simple solution. Now, by that I mean, there may be a simple solution to something, but there even might be an even more simple solution. It may take you 5 more hours, but you've got to think, well, am I okay with the simple solution? Am I willing to spend 5 more hours to find another simple solution? Is it worth my time? So understanding these sort of factors. Time management, we all know. And the big picture view. So this is I guess someone who has a big picture view is always in line to move into management and lead within the leadership group of a company, because you actually understand the company as a whole. Now, I know it is slightly brief, but the reason why I know is I want to make it slightly brief because I want to make this a bit more interactive, as I hope there'll be a lot of questions around this. I've been in your position, I'm an engineer, I understand sort of some of the issues and troubles, and some of you, I'm assuming, are looking to apply for jobs in the next few months, so please ask me questions. I'm absolutely more than happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Mitesh. That was a very good presentation, very good tips. So, from the audience, any questions for me?